So thank you all very much for spending your very valuable evening here at ISKCON Juhu in this our very wonderful program Tarang. So here we of having this wonderful topic of Mera Bharat Kahan. We have heard about Mera Bharat Mahan, right? So मेरा भारत महान था या होगा या है, that has to be pondered upon. So today we'll see some of the salient feature when we say मेरा भारत महान. तो थोड़ा हम पीछे से रिकैप करके आएंगे कि what we consider our India glorious about. So let's discuss few minutes about that first. We see, as you are hearing in the drama also in the beginning, that India was considered like a sone ki chidiya, right? So why it was considered sone ki chidiya? Because that was one of the most wealthy nation amongst all other nations all over the world. And that's why even the Britishers and others, they were having eye on India. And here is this Christopher Columbus was going around all over the world in search of India, where it is exactly, to find out the shortest distance where they can come and have a trade. Unfortunately, he went in America. But then we understand from the historical point of view that India was considered one of the very advanced country in what? Not only just trades. We'll see this is another some historical account. How much Britishers they carried wealth from India? It says they carried 1500 tons of gold, just gold. That much wealth they carried from India. Why? Because if you find the historical evidences, India was considered one of the capital of education. We see here Takshashila or Nalanda. These were one of the very ancient libraries, universities, and the place of training students. And that was established in well before 700 BC, where other places you don't find even so much of education prevailed. And if you see in terms of mathematics and other, this very famous Pythagoras theorem, which we understand in the triangle, but that was discovered thousands of years before Pythagoras. That comes in this Bodhayana. So our mathematics was far, far superior. I have so many slides, we cannot go in so many details. I'll just pass through. India was the first country to introduce the concept of zero, which was done by Aryabhatta. And then the value of pi, that was discovered thousands of years back in our mathematics. And one of the very prominent and basic siddhantas of astronomy also were discussed and discovered long way back in our ancient history. So this was 1000 BC. That means almost now 2015 is going on. 3000 years back, this was compiled. This is minimum what we have understanding of. And this compilation was not just kind of stories. No, you see here, it says showed the distance between the earth and moon. That was also calculated. Exact. Not just like that only. So this law of gravity also was discussed 400 years before Newton by Bhaskaracharya. Then Aryabhatta also had a theory of, another theory of gravitation, which was 1000 years before. There was a navigation 6000 years ago in Indus Valley. From there only this word comes as navy. That is called as Navagati. We find this Maharshi Sushruta, who is the father of surgery, that he has compiled 2600 years ago, where they used to do very complicated surgeries also, even plastic surgery. And Ayurveda is famous all over. Even the martial arts, they originated in India. And afterwards they were taught, and learned by Buddhist monks, and then it went many places through them. Now also, Sanskrit is considered one of the classical language all over the world. In any language, if you compare Sanskrit, that is ancient, at the same time very peculiar, very based on some rules and regulations. Even they say that for computers, this language can be used very effectively because it has a very definite rules and regulations. See, here are some of the Vedic, our documented books are there. Many times people they say that Vedas are just read and written by some old people in caves, which has nothing to do. So do you think, this kind of poetic Sanskrit, very brilliant, having very great Siddhanta, is written by some caveman? That is not possible. Even when the Britishers they came to India, they felt so ashamed of their own poetry and other things. Like they have many poems, long poems, Iliads and other things. When the Britishers came and they saw the length of Mahabharata, Ramayana is having 24,000 shlokas. Mahabharata is having 1 lakh shlokas. So such a huge length of our poetry, which was never seen anywhere in the whole world. All the Upanishads, which are our historical literatures, we find that they touch upon so many different things like astronomy, legal matters, creation of this universe, how it was created, what is karma, reincarnation, soul, wars, and so many things. And there are so many things like this we can see. But then, when we are talking about current Indian system, now this has just become like a some part in our lifestyle to see that okay, this was the thing in our India. And I have seen also the glory of India or the pride of being Indian happens only 2 days in a year. 15th August, 26th January. Then everyone awakens that, oh, really, I am an Indian.
And once they win a cricket match.
So, he is adding third is an India-Pakistan match. So, other time we are so busy in our own things. So, we can see that although so many glorious past is there, we don't bank upon it. So, that is the unfortunate situation of our situation of our state now, where we are the most powerful, which is like leading the whole world, that we have kept aside and trying something else to do, which are not at good. So that's why one of the philosopher was telling this. He said, on August 15th, 1947, India independently became dependent on West. So, just having a political independence is not enough. We have to be independent mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all circumstances, economically. So when we are talking about independence of India, glory of India, we have to really find out what is that glory which we are looking for. This is another very stunning facts. We are talking about the glory of India. This is Lord Macaulay, who came to India in 1835, sent by Britishers, to go and see the India and have a first-hand information, because they wanted to come and conquer India. So he came here, went all over length and breadth of India, from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, and then he made a report, and he submitted that report in 1835. This is date also is there, 2nd February 1835 in British Assembly. Somebody can read it loudly?
I have travelled across the length and breadth of India and have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace the old and ancient education system, her culture, for the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own. They will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation.
You see here, they are very cunningly shrewd in terms of understanding how to make a very glorious nation a dependent nation, a slaver. How to make a slave out of a very wonderful person. They attacked our backbone, and that is a spiritual culture and educational system. Very systematically they came and destroyed it. And that's what we are now, remained. Although the Britishers have gone, the slavery has not yet ended. And this is current updates of modern India. Modern India also is number one in some of the things. You like to know? This is one. India is the first in the whole world in terms of transport of beef. That is the flesh of our mother cow. India is the top one nation. India has beaten Australia and other countries also in that. You want to see another number one? India is number one in suicide rates now. Congratulations. Somewhere we should be, na? First. Not in Olympics, not in somewhere, but somewhere we should be. So, WHO says that India accounted for the highest estimated number of suicides in 2012. Over 1 lakh people commit suicide in India every year, on an average. And around 10 lakh people try to commit. Out of that, 9 fail out of 10. So we can see the situation of India, where it is going, from where. Like now you are all sitting here from last almost 1 hour. Almost around 55 people have committed suicide in India. Now some of you are laughing, but should we laugh, should we cry, or what we should do? We see the situation of our India, from where we have started and now how we are going through. So when we see this, then we are at least should awaken to the facts, what is happening. We should know that somewhere something is going wrong. Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON, he used to say that as a third person, if you see this whole society, you find somewhere some pinprick is there in the society. That although so many material, technological advancement is there, still people are not as satisfied as they were before. That shows that somewhere something is going wrong. So what is that going wrong? That has to be properly understood. And that's why the settings like this, where we have come and discussing, are most important. And for this subject matter, we are very happy to have one of the role model for us to see, that when our Chakravarti Prabhu was telling in the beginning that how India is famous not for so many other things, but then India is famous for its own culture, where even the foreigners are so much attracted. You see, all the foreign people, those who come to India, they don't come for finding some memory chips, or finding some cars, or finding that they don't have here. They have enough there. They don't have to search it. But then they come here for finding something substance in life, finding goal of life, finding the causes of satisfaction comes in life. And here we have Adbhuta Hare, one of my good friend, who comes from Germany, and he studied there. He was born and brought up there by his wonderful family. And after that, when he first time came to India, he was so much attracted to the culture and the philosophy and the substance of the character of Indian people. He was so astonished, surprised, and fall in love with India. And since then, he made India only as his home. And now he's here. So we can see that India has a potential to attract and lead the whole world in this aspect. So I like to invite our and request him to speak. What he is going to speak is just what he went through. That's he was telling. So I hand over to him. He can.
Hare Krishna. So I'll just briefly recount some of my initial introduction, basically, to Indian culture, to Indian philosophy, to Indian ways of life. And this was way back in 1990s, where I received a first book, which was based on teachings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And even earlier, in so many ways, India has always been a country of mysticism, country of something esoteric, something very attractive, something very unique, as we've been also just hearing last half an hour. So this is something that nowhere else was able to explore to that degree that India has to offer. And the West itself has a lot of different kind of attractions as well. It's not that the West is pretty dry, completely out of something that is esoteric, something that is mystical, something that is philosophical. It is there, but India has still remained a role model basically for everyone to experience that in its unique, again, way, because it is still happening in the practice. Like many times we hear a lot of different kinds of accounts of various kinds of philosophies, of various kinds of information, but many things we cannot experience because there is no practice of it. So, as we know from the scriptures historically, India wasn't just India what it is now today. India has been throughout the whole world by the name of Bharatvarsha. So because of the particular influence of the what we call modes of the material nature, people had become influenced in various kinds of different ways, more related to the bodily consciousness of life, and have strayed away from the essence that is given in this particular Bharatvarsha, that is now retained only, unfortunately, in India. Years back, I've been in the Tamil Nadu, and we met one sadhu from Advaita Sampradaya, and it was very interesting the way that he explained to us, giving the analogy of the whole world. He said that the world is like a house, and he compared that house and the countries to different, that in that house there are different rooms, different kinds of parts of that particular house. So he said India is, has a particular place. So the whole world is, having all different kinds of activities going on and happening. And he said that there is a kitchen, like we know, there is a definitely sleeping room, there is a living room. There are so many different kinds of parts of the house, but he said India is like a puja room. It's a place where the most of the religious activities are taking place. So this is something that is a fact, that here in India so many religious activities are mostly prominent compared to anything else. And as I said, of course, it's not excluded that in the other parts of the world this is also the case, but in practical experience it is very scarce. It is not as it is happening here in India. There was a survey performed some years ago in terms of religiosity amongst the people, and just guess who came the number one on that survey as the most religious country in the world. It was India. And the most atheistic country in the world, it was Sweden, of course, in Europe. So the idea, the reason is that people have that particular tendency to explore various kinds of opportunities in life. And that's a fact. We all have this in our genes, we may call it so. Younger generations come and they always rebel against the, earlier generations. They always want to set up different kinds of rules. They always want to set up different kinds of standards. They always want to explore something new, something different. And nothing's going to change. This has been going on for centuries. This will also go on for another centuries and millennia and so on and so on and so on. It's just the nature. Because we know when we are young, we definitely have this surge of the hormones that rush through our veins and body, and that we need something new, we need something different. And we want to explore something new, and we want to explore something different. So this is always the case. And therefore, whatever we encounter in that particular moment, we don't find it so interesting. We want something new, we want something different. So most often we rebel. So now what has been happening in Europe also, because there is a huge conflict between science and religion, and most often religion cannot provide satisfactory answers for so many different kinds of phenomena that are taking place, but can be explained by the science. So for that very reason, we find that many people in Europe are taking to completely atheistic interests and beliefs because religion cannot provide satisfactory answers. And this is the very reason why especially younger generations in the last several decades have been almost and mostly leaning towards, towards science as such. But I have to point out that this is not the case in India. As we've been hearing through this particular presentation, India had a lot of scientific background that had no any kind of clash or misunderstanding in relationship to religion or philosophy. Absolutely none. Because they were very closely binded together. Even as Einstein would said, that religion without science is blind, and science without religion is lame. So both things come together, and they're very much complementing to each other. So therefore, there are always different kinds of trends that are taking place in the world. So now, as I said, that Europe has become mostly kind of atheist, and India is becoming also more influenced by the West as such. But this shouldn't be the case. It's mostly the reason that people are ignorant about the facts that are given in the scriptures itself. So it's just the ways and means of different kind of propaganda. So West also, as I said, it has very deep historical backgrounds and religious backgrounds. It is always there, but it doesn't mean that it has to that extent, like I said, which you can experience it here in India still, to quite some degree. The very initial point that also, as I said, when I came in touch with the scriptures here, especially Bhagavad Gita and other Puranas, Upanishads, is that particular culture, that particular relationships that you could see, that you could experience, that has something completely different air of notion than what is happening in the West. And that's something that captivated me very much, especially on philosophical grounds. And when I started doing research more and more, I developed the desire to go to India, to come to India, and I have that particular experience again, personally. And when I came, I really was captivated. Initially, I have to admit, there was a cultural shock, definitely, that was there. But now whenever I go to the West, back and have a different kind of cultural shock, that is there also. So the idea is that here in India, people were very open, very friendly, and that was way back some 18 years ago. But as the time has been passing, I can point out that this is not the case so much anymore, unfortunately. India is pretty much picking up with the West in that negative sense, very negative sense. So as we pointed out in the beginning, India had something really unique, it still has, to offer to the world. Because once we compare different kinds of achievements in the world, whether it be technological, whether it be social, whether it be philosophical, whether it be religious, there is something very, very unique about India that has to offer. It is not that this is all available in the West in such kind of particular way. So to explore it is something that I would like to urge everyone here to try to get a little deeper and try to explore all these different glories of Indian culture, of Indian philosophy, little more seriously than what you've just been seeing, through the medias, through the movies. Like you see all these different, serials, you see all these different kinds of, even through songs or movies, as I said. It is not as such. It is much, much deeper. It has much more greater scientific grounding than anything else. And this is something that is most wonderful, because I said initially, especially young generations, are always rebellious. Always they want to find something different, something new. And just because of that particular ignorance that exists in the society, we are not aware what we really have, that treasure house of information, the treasure house of knowledge that is available here. So it's not that something is outright bad, that something is outright, incompatible, that something is outright completely not useful. It's just the question of information that we have to acquire in order to understand this particular utility. So once we get that, then it's very easy to actually grasp the whole meaning of the Vedic culture, the whole meaning of the Vedic philosophy. Like there is one village in Maharashtra, maybe some of you might know it, it's called Shani Shingapur, it's close to Shirdi. And it is a place which is known very much that people don't close their doors there. They just keep it open. And this is something, one of the features of culture, still we can call it the Vedic culture, where people had so much faith, so much trust in each other, that they just don't have a need to close the door. They just don't have to need to kind of hide something, to preserve something. It's just open. Whereas nowadays you go anywhere, you go to now to different, any kind of society here in Mumbai, you will find some watchman, security, you won't be able to approach anyone. It is so difficult because this is what's going on due to that materialistic way of life, that people have lost trust in each other. People don't believe anyone, especially in relationships. And this is the most destructive feature of the Western civilization. I won't say, like, there's nothing like this that West is bad, India is good, or vice versa, or anything as such. There's nothing like this. There is always something that has particular value. In the scriptures, Chanakya Pandit also, he would say, even in the filthy place, if there is a gold, pick it up, take it, because it's something valuable. So everywhere there is something that has some particular value. So West also has some valuable things. Srila Prabhupada would often compare this to lame and blind man. He said, West is blind and India is lame, technologically and materially. So if both combine, they can create wonders. So it's something most wonderful that also we can utilize, that we can combine together and achieve incredible results in both. If we want even science and technology, fine. If we want something religious and philosophical and cultural, fine. It's the most wonderful combination that can take place. But in order to do so, we also have to understand features of both. Features of particular technology, but as we know, if it combined for a spiritual purpose, it becomes just perfection. So in order to do that, we have to just a little bit become more inquisitive, become a little more open to the fact that has been presented in the scriptures, that has been given to us. So these wonderful opportunities have been offered to us, but now it's up to us, again, to try to open ourselves to that kind of information, to that kind of culture that still luckily exists here in India. So it's not just the idea that we should just outrightly reject everything altogether that has been presented by, like we saw in the drama, it's old Dadaji. He's like presenting this tradition, he's presenting the culture of ancient times, and the younger generations are trying to explore something different. Fine, there's nothing wrong in that, but just we have to understand the purpose of it, that's all. It's not that we have to just forget outrightly, what are the roots of any particular culture, of any particular background that we might be coming from. I'm also, not advocating here, for example, that, because I have adopted this particular cultural way of life, that necessary I'm rejecting everything that is Western. No, not as such. And as I said earlier, there's so many wonderful things that can be applied. And the Vedic culture has been present throughout the world, but it lost its substance. That was the misfortune. It's lost its substance, especially in the later years when this particular consumerism and materialistic society had become more and more prevalent. And this is why we see that people are losing touch with each other, people are losing faith in each other. There are so many drifts in relationships, there are so many personal disasters happening in the lives of the people. That's why we see here also, like, in terms of suicides, in terms of so many various kinds of dealings that are taking place, that nobody can really trust anyone. There was one interesting book written by Blaise Pascal. I'm sure every one of you have heard of him. Blaise Pascal, very famous philosopher and mathematician. He wrote a book, Thoughts, wherein he said that if friends nowadays would know what the friends think of them and talk behind their backs, there wouldn't be friends in the world. Pretty heavy statement if you think about it. So this is what's happening now, is you can't trust even the closest people that you're relating to. Why? Because people had become so selfish, not selfless, selfish, yeah, so selfish. But we want to make them selfless. How? Not with some kind of personal motivation, but in terms of this particular knowledge and the philosophy that has been given through the Vedic scriptures. This is the only way, actually, that we can then relate to each other. Otherwise, we'll be just like some wild animals walking around and barking on each other, trying to exploit others for the sake of some kind of profit and self-adoration. So that's not a cultural way of dealings. And unfortunately, even in the West, the problem is that people do appear very sophisticated, but beneath it's just very, very unsophisticated way that people are ready to behave towards each other. So this kind of a mentality is creeping more and more in India here, and this is why so much distrust has been created. And this is why we're trying to make this Krishna consciousness movement as the antithesis, basically, to that kind of a idea, so that that friendship, that trust can be regained again, and that we can progress together towards eternal, blissful state, not just of the mind, not just of the intellect, not just of the senses also, but absolutely to the spirit soul, which is the highest experience that anybody can have. We all here want to be happy, right? We all want to be satisfied. We all want to explore something wonderful, something most amazing. But we have to understand one thing. It's not that everything is just experienced on the sensual platform. There are higher platforms than that also. There is emotional platform, there is intellectual platform, there is a spiritual platform. So if you just leave things on the gross sensual level, then how is it possible to experience something greater and higher? It is not. And we all want to be blissful. We all want to have some knowledge. We all want to be, eternal. Nobody wants to die here, I'm sure of that. It's a very unpleasant experience. But we see that in this world, actually, there is no bliss. There is no absolute knowledge. And everything is very much temporary. So Vedic scripture point out that we as the spirit soul, we have that nature which is eternal. We have that nature which is full of knowledge. We have that nature which is full of bliss and happiness. So in order to experience this, we have to act on the spiritual level. We have to act on a spiritual platform. So there is nothing contradictory. As I said earlier, all the different kinds of facilities that we have now in this modern world, we can also utilize in that particular direction. There is no any contradiction. It is possible to achieve. But if we use it in a selfish manner, then that's going to create an enormous hurdle to our existence, and to existence of our friends, to existence to everybody else around us. Because if you are then acting so selfishly, then this will influence everybody. So the whole point, like many times when we consider success is just climb on the top of the ladder, or climb on the top, as the expression goes, of the elephant, just be on the top. But then sometimes things happen that we find ourselves beneath that elephant, being trampled by its crushing feet, or try to avoid those trampling feet. So this is what material life is bringing to us. We try to exploit this material energy, but then very often we just found that actually this very same material energy goes very much against it, because we have to pay the price. There's nothing that is free in this material world. Everything has its price. So now, when we try to become liberal, when we try to explore so many different kinds of options, when we use different kinds of, let's say, intoxicants, when we use different kinds of ways to interact and behave with others, if it's not cultural, if it's not traditional, it will definitely bounce back. It will bring some kind of a negative effect. So the whole point of understanding the meaning and purpose of life, it's not just, how to gather some particular type of knowledge, or develop some particular type of skills, but it's how to develop wonderful values to relate to each other. Because otherwise we'll be just come lonely in this world. I'm sure nobody wants to remain lonely and forgotten and despised even by others. It's the most worst thing that can happen to anyone. We all need friends, we all need, somebody to take care, and that somebody cares about us. We all need love. We all want for love, we all search for love. But unfortunately it turns out that it's just exploitation in the name of love. And therefore nobody trusts us. Neither we trust anybody else. So this is what this materialistic civilization has brought to us. And this is something, as I said, is the most unfortunate thing that had happened to India, because it had adopted all these kind of wrong, I would say wrong, we can't even say that they're values, but they're completely wrong basis of trying to experience any kind of happiness in this world. So we have to, try to understand the real meaning of human existence. If that is not the case, and if we don't understand how it works, what is the science behind, then definitely we'll glide towards some kind of a horrible and horrifying experience in the future. Even now we can experience this to quite some extent. So this wonderful culture that has been existing in India for millennia and has been preserved, this is the most important thing to point out, it has been still preserved to quite an extent. It's such a valuable gift to the humanity that nowhere else it's available. As I said, it has been throughout the world. This culture has been existing throughout the world. This religion has been existing throughout the world. But unfortunately has been shrinking more and more and more. So still, while it's available, this is our invitation. Please try to take advantage of it and try to understand how you can apply it in your life and benefit. And it is very simple. It doesn't demand so much. It's a very simple process. But the only thing is just we have to, try to become a little bit inquisitive and see how we can benefit us, how we can benefit others as well. This is the most wonderful glory of what India still can offer today. Hare Krishna.
So we are hearing from the first-hand experienced, person, because as he was telling, Adbhuta Prabhu, that how this unnatural lifestyle has brought about so many dangerous, effects. And how this unnatural lifestyle comes in our life is, unnatural lifestyle stems from the unnatural philosophies. Like the way you see here the suicide rates. Previously there used to be big families, joint families, that Dada, Dadi and then Pardada and all huge family used to stay together. That was the culture of India. Now, in current state, it has become a nucleus family, 1 BHK. But that nucleus family also is start, exploding. Neutrons, protons go anywhere here, there, everywhere, flowing around. So that is the situation now. About family, about the society, everything. Why that unnatural thing happens? Because this is based on something unnatural. Like, for example, now we are talking about our mother nature. We are dealing in and out every day, every moment we are dealing with it. So, in around 14th century, 15th century, that time because it was quite prevalent, the culture of spiritual culture, that everything was respected which is coming from God. So nature was also considered, like we also consider now nature as our mother, right? So when we are talking about mother nature, that was the previous understanding. But we find after some little enhancement in technology and discoveries in around 17th century, the people started feeling that nature is not mother. Why? Because there are so many earthquakes, thousands of people are killed, so many floods, thousands of people become homeless, and then there are so many storms, so many tsunami comes and then 3 lakh people are wiped off. So how a mother can do this with her child? Does mother kills her own child? So then the concept started growing that nature is not like mother, nature is like a stepmother. So sometimes she goes, mad and she creates difficulties. So in 19th century, another, you can see the advancement. So there was one philosopher, Francis Bacon, quite famous in West. So he told that nature is not like mother, not like stepmother. She is like a prostitute. Actually, she is supposed to serve the humanity, but now she has gone out of control. So now we have to use technology to grab her and utilize for our own use. Can you understand the mentality now? If this is the mentality what we are going to have towards our mother nature, what satisfaction and what heart content you are going to have in the life? So along with the aping the West, they say, copying the West, we copy all these ideas also in our life. So because of that, things go astray. Because the value system is somewhere shaky. And then natural things go in the background, unnatural things becomes prominent. That's why as in this society, when we see that there are difficulties, there are crime rates going up, suicide rate going up, and then so many other things going up, that shows very clearly to any sane man that somewhere something is missing. But then when you are talking about that missing factor which creates this unnatural thing, for example, if our understanding are not proper, then we will be always heading towards a disaster. We go to the doctor, our head is aching, headache. Then we go to the doctor, we say, doctor, we have a headache. Then he opens one big glass bottle and then he takes out one painkiller. He gives you. He says, take it. 1 rupee. So then you take that painkiller, headache is gone. You feel so happy. Doctor is so intelligent. 1 rupee, sab dard ki dawa. And then that doctor has only one burnie only, that one bag only. Whatever you go, doctor, I have stomach ache. Ramban, take this painkiller. So then you take painkiller, pain is gone. Even if some you go, doctor, I have heart pain, painkiller, take it. So what do you think? If after taking painkiller he will be happy or not? Pain is gone, no doubt. Pain is gone, and then in case that pain comes up again, he goes to the doctor, he says, take another second painkiller. Don't worry. I have many things. Every day one painkiller you keep taking. One may say that this is like very shortcut way of, rather than spending 10 lakh rupees for heart surgery, just imagine one day, every day you take 2 rupees painkiller. So even if you take 1 year, it just costs 600 rupees. No, 700 rupees. Is it not intelligence? 10 lakh rupees spending and then you are spending just 700 rupees and then you are alright, isn't it? But that is not the case, because that painkiller, today it is working, tomorrow it is working, after that you don't know whether it will work or not, because the disease is growing inside. When the disease goes to some limit, painkiller will not work, and then the medicine also will not work, because the disease has gone beyond limit. Similarly, in the society also, when the society is going through diseased situation, many painkillers are there. What is painkiller? Painkiller means which distracts a person from the main disease and then gives a shortcut method. So all the different entertainments and other things which goes on in the society, they are like painkillers. They distract our attention from the main cause. Why? Where is something going wrong? Yes, I can go to the movie and 3 hours I can sit there, laugh, cry, feel exhilarated and come back. Does that solve the problems? You feel stressed out, then someone goes to the bar, texts, goes high, comes back. Does that solve the problem? Tomorrow the same boss you are going to go, he's going to shout at you. So all these things, they are like one painkiller we take. So intelligent person has to be very careful where the society is going. Is the society trying to become happy just by, you see why it is falling off, Because it is not permanently attached, temporary. So anything temporary will fall. So society also based on anything temporary, it has to fall without any doubt. And then in our now current society, we find so many such painkillers. Like you go in the movies, previously you find old movies, and there will be some stunts, few stunts will be there fighting. Villain will come and then some few, right, dishum dishum. And then some movie songs will be there. The actress is standing 10 feet away, and then they will have some songs, very shy and like that. So that was the case. As it is progressing, then it became more violent. Nowadays, unless you see 007 smashing some big blow, thousands of people are killed, some big building bombed off, the whole city is destroyed, then you feel, abhi maja aa gaya. Kuch to, dhamakedar hua. So, what is happening, you understand? People were happy with some shots, dishum dishum. Now that is not working. Now we require higher dose of violence to satisfy our, that mind has become so restless, normal things doesn't satisfy him now. Previously people used to hear, classical music, and they used to be very happy. Now, unless they hear DJ, you will be blown off 10 feet only. Then they feel, abhi to kuch, baj raha hai abhi. And similarly, people are so mad, for so many other things. Like we are seeing now the fever of cricket. People are like, so much. See, when we are talking about it, we are not telling that this is wrong. Try to understand. We are not telling that the painkiller is wrong. What is wrong? When you take painkiller as medicine, that is wrong. When you say that painkiller will make my life successful, then you are treading a very dangerous path. So similarly, in India specifically, these two painkillers are very popular. Bollywood, which is just close here only, and cricket. So when that comes, all other discussion stops. The politics stops, the poverty discussion stops, health discussion stops. Everyone is just glued, isn't it? And now you require higher and higher doses. Previously there used to be test matches, 4 days. And people used to sit and watch, whole stadium full. Now, 1 day match, because you require more thrill. That also is not thrilling now. Now it is T20. So, now there is another function happened. The Indian cricket and Indian Bollywood, they got married and they had a son IPL. So, where both parties are trying to as much give solace to the Indians as possible. But then we find how long it is going to go like this. So when we are talking about unnatural lifestyle, temporary, thing, somewhere we are missing on the substance. We are just becoming so externals that we are not understanding the value of life. We are not understanding the substance, understanding the goal of life, which are very important considerations, which only we understand from spiritual perspective. A person who has no understanding of Bhagavad Gita, no understanding of Mahabharata, Ramayana, practically he has understanding of life is very superficial. So, when someone accepts this wonderful gift of Vedic culture and then he practices in his own life, then his life becomes complete. Like, a few days back only, we were having this Ram Navami festival. So I was reading Ramayana, and it was so amazing to see that from Ramayana there are so many things can be applied now, today. Like I was just reading about Ayodhya. This Ayodhya was considered Ayodhya because it was unmatched in its own strength. No one can conquer it. That's why it was called as Ayodhya. And then the system of security was so tight. There was no scope anyone can enter. And then it is said that in Ayodhya there are two types of irrigation systems. One is Daiva Mantrak and another is Nadi Mantrak. Daiva Mantrak means you are just dependent on rains for your irrigation factors. And another is you have your own system that even if rain doesn't come, you have sufficient quota how to manage the water. So the Ayodhya was using that Nadi Matraka system. And then in the Ramayana it comes that once there was a drought for 10 years in Ayodhya. Not one single drop fall. But then there was no problem for Ayodhya. Why? Because they didn't even came to know that there is no rain. But everything was going very nicely. After some 11th year, they started feeling little problematic. So we can see that, are we aware of all this, even the technologies what our previous people used to have? I don't know, even the cabinet minister of agriculture will know this, Devamatrak. So there are so many things already available in our scriptures. If you just understand it and apply it as it is, now also, so practical. I was hearing that this Dasharatha, he was called as Dasharatha because his chariot is to go in 10 directions, conquering 10 directions. Why he was conquering like that? Because he was having these 4 things. So there Ramayana talks about the 4 very important qualities of a leader. So first is physical strength. Physical strength doesn't mean only going to the gym and doing that physical strength. But physical strength means having a very support of your friends, well-wishers. The full support, that's what makes one a successful leader. Which Dasharatha had. He had 12 ministers which are so expert in different fields. Like we hear some of the names, Jayanta, then Drishti, and then Sumantra is one who comes quite repeatedly in Ramayana. So like that he had, and then they were taking care of the Ayodhya very nicely. Second is the emotional strength, because emotional strength is required, not only just physical strength. Emotional strength requires for crisis management. And now you see the whole life is crisis only. Every day is a crisis. If you want to see, just go on Andheri station, and any station. People are running, chasing, 753 local, and then they are running. So much of crisis is going on every day, practically. But then in this crisis, what helps us is emotional stability. Like afternoon only, one lady called me. She said that, can you give counseling to my son? He's going little astray. He's losing confidence. He's not feeling worth. So that has become like very common nowadays. People are not having confidence. People are losing the courage to go ahead. No challenge is taken. So in such situation, this emotional stability which comes by very strong people's association. And where these people we find? These people are those who are practicing something higher values in their life. They are not leaders only in the skills, but they are leaders in character. That brings that emotional stability. And Dashrath was having that. In all circumstances, he was keeping himself in a very good atmosphere. Crisis he was handling very nicely. Third thing it talks about, intellectual strength. Intellectual strength means to discriminate between good and bad. What is good for me and what is not good for me. Just by having information is not sufficient. For that matter, even the doctors, they know the bad effects of smoking cigarette. But then there was a WHO once made a circular, World Health Organization, and that circular was only meant for doctors. And then the appeal was made to the doctors that doctors, at least you don't smoke, because they found that doctors are the major affected by such bad habits. Who knows more than others about these bad habits? So that means they have sufficient information learnt. Another temporary. So they have information but no discrimination power. So intelligence means not just information. This age is of information now. People are just increasing their information. GBs to terabytes, and it's going on. But then, is there any transformation? Just information, information, information. So when we are talking about intelligence, intelligence is meant for discriminating between good and bad. And that comes by reading scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata. You understand very clearly what is good and what is bad. What can give me long-lasting happiness, not just temporary painkiller happiness. And last, fourth, most important, that is a spiritual strength. So that spiritual strength comes from the associating with spiritual minded people. And that's why all of you have come here, and we have come here, to get that spiritual strength by associating with spiritually minded people. So when we have this 4 type of strength in one, that makes a successful leader. And that Vedic India teaches us from the beginning how to have all this physical strength, intellectual strength, emotional strength, and spiritual strength. So anywhere we get this 4 thing nicely trained, you can find their leaders coming up. That is the educational system is supposed to do. So the Vedic educational system is this, that it trains a holistic approach. A man comes out as a very well-groomed, gentle leader who can contribute to the society in fullest. And that's what we see in our history. So many great sages and saints and so many great kings, they are the product of this culture. But then what happens is, when we don't understand the glory, then what happens is, although we have it, we don't know the glory. Like once Prabhupada, who spread Krishna consciousness, Vedic culture all over the world, within just 10 years he transformed so many people all over the world, going to different continents. And he established temples like this, practically 108 major cities in the world in just 10 years. So when he was going first time to the London, he was just getting down from the aeroplane, and then he was going in the launch. The reporters were waiting there because he was quite a famous personality that time. So one of the reporter asked, Swamiji, why you have come to London? Generally, people go to the West for what? Dollars, pounds. So he thought that Swami also has come for that only. So the remark given by Prabhupada is very important. Prabhupada said, the Britishers, all of you came to India, you looted everything, but then you forgot the most important thing there, to loot. So I have come on this opportunity to take this very valuable thing which you lost. There, you didn't remember to take it. And then he showed Bhagavad Gita. He said, this you kept there only. This is the most important thing. So now also we have the same facility where we can make a positive endeavor to create again good health in the society. Because that is the meaning of cancerous cells and healthy cells. Cancerous cells, they grow to create a cancer, unhealthy situation. And there are some healthy cells which can also grow and multiply to create a healthy situation in the body. So, whatever activities we are doing now, whatever endeavors we are doing now, they are like healthy cells. They may be small, but then they are very powerful. And we have seen it in the history, how this wonderful culture is embraced all over the world, practically. And generally we find Indians, one of our speaker was telling this. He said, सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग? Means, कुछ भी अच्छा करते हो आप, हमेशा थोड़ा डर रहता है कि लोग क्या कहेंगे. आप मूवी को जाएंगे, बार में जाएंगे, घूमने के लिए जाएंगे. Generally people will not bother so much. But then just ask ourselves, when we have to go to temple, how we feel. Someone asks, hey, कहाँ जा रहे हो? Do we say proudly that I am going to temple? Some of you, because you are, still that culture is there, no doubt. But many times people feel shy that, others should not feel that I am, kind of non-modern, like very old-fashioned person. It's like, अभी भी जा रहे हो क्या तुम? मंदिर जाते हो? बड़े हो गए ना अभी? So people feel very kind of, just see that for doing wrong things you don't feel any uneasiness. On the street you can do wrong things, but then going to the temple, 10 times you think, जाऊं क्या? So why that? That is because of our history. The Mughals came, they ruled over our country for hundreds of years, and then Britishers, they came, they ruled 150 years. They gave these two very important gifts to Indians. You know that? The Mughals, they gave fear in the heart of Indians to practice any religious thing. Like we find in history that Aurangzeb time there was a jizya, one tax. If you have to chant Hare Krishna, you have to pay tax. You have to do kirtan, you have to pay tax. That was the system. That any spiritual activity you have to do, that was done under great threat that nothing should happen. And the Britishers, they gave another gift, inferiority complex, to the Indians. Now also we find, like you go to the market, you want to have a pen to purchase, and then you go and then one is a India made pen and another is made in Japan, made in US. Generally what pen we choose? It's like that. Why? We don't know what is inside, but just stamp. It is from London, it is from US, it is from, we feel that that must be better than India. Somehow. From where that comes? That comes from inferiority complex, which is given. So because of these two things, whenever it comes to practice spirituality, this disease comes. सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग? लोग क्या कहेंगे? No, if I start going to temple, लोग क्या बोलेंगे? If I start chanting Hare Krishna, no, लोग क्या बोलेंगे? बोलेंगे साधु हो गया ये. इतना जल्दी कैसे? पहले तो अच्छा था. No? क्या? So we can see this, so that we have to fight, because that is our disease. So to the degree we understand our glory and understand our challenges, to that degree we can fight it, and then we can win our glory back. So that's why I want to thank all of you for being here today and celebrating our victory now, because this is the way it is. When we understand our strength and understand our challenges, then no one can make any stumbling block. We will be always victorious in our attempts. Attempts to be happy and spreading that happiness to everyone. Would you like to speak something?
No, time's up. Time's up.
No, please.
I think you gave pretty wonderful conclusion, so it's okay. No, time's up.
Yeah. So with this I'd like to end, but then make sure that although we are doing this program, these programs are just for kindling some interest and starting our spiritual life. So every one of us, we should take this responsibility as Indian to create some minute, whatever our capacity, change in our own life, and change that, making that change in others' life. Then it will be a great success for such kind of programs. Hare Krishna.
Hare.